So this event is part of Galway Mayo Institute of Technology's 40th anniversary celebrations. The ship was donated by the Marine Institute for one day only, and we put a competition out for transition year students to take a photograph, to send us in photographs of what the marine environment means to them, and also a 250-word section explaining the photo. So we received applications from all over, absolutely fantastic. The standard was so high, and we chose 12 students from around the Galway and Mayo area to come on board today and to carry out a survey of Galway Bay.
When we go inside, I'll show you where the working life jackets are, and I'll issue all with a helmet. Once you come out on deck, you will have to wear the helmet and life jackets and your proper footwear. Okay.
Yeah, as you know, like the Marine Institute own and operate two vessels. The Celtic Voyager that we're on at the moment, and that's our more coastal vessel. She does a lot of oceanographic work, a lot of inshore seabed mapping work, some fisheries, like the prawn surveys. And then we have the Celtic Explorer, which is our much bigger vessel. She's our deep sea research vessel, and she would have been the ship that went out. Did anyone see anything about National Geographic were on board last year when they did a cruise out onto the Mid-Atlantic Ridge and mapped part of the ridge, but most importantly, for the first time, found hydrothermal vents within the North Atlantic that weren't directly linked to Iceland. So we look at that in a little while. We'll look at some footage from that survey as well, using our ROV, our remotely operated vehicle that was sent down to 4,000 metres. Okay, so we'll have a look at some footage from that in a little while. So there are two basic research vessels. And what we'll do today is we'll go out into Galway Bay. I'll show you on the charts exactly where we're going on the electronic charts. And we'll do some oceanographic operations, okay? So we'll use our what's called a CTD, an instrument that tells us about the structure of the water column. Okay, it tells us our temperature, our salinity, density gradients, and we'll take samples from that to look at for plankton. We'll also take grabs from the sediment, from the seabed, that's called the benthos. And we'll look at the organisms that live on the seabed and also within the sediment as well, okay? And we will also be deploying the beam trawl, shooting the beam trawl, and we'll take a catch and we'll sort that catch, okay, for both fisheries and benthos. Then, has anyone seen the real map of Ireland? And it shows our sea area as well as our land area. And yeah, I think it's 2 million acres. It's absolutely huge. So, you know, we're an island nation. The marine environment is very important to us. It's important that we manage it correctly, and in order to manage it sustainably and correctly, we need to understand it. So that's why we do research on the vessels. That's the kind of main reason. Okay, you're just going through Galway docks now, guys. If you want to just look at the side. So part of the reason was that Galway Mayo Institute of Technology have a long history of training on the vessels. They actually were the first institute in Ireland to take their students out on the national research vessel, which at the time would have been the Loch Beltra back in the early to mid 80s. So they've had over 25 years of student training on the research vessels, and that's one of the reasons we wanted to celebrate their anniversary in this way. My name is Paula McGrain. I am with Galway Mayo Institute of Technology, and you met John as well, John Boyd. I'm an oceanographer, a biological oceanographer, okay? So I look at the plankton in the water column and use it as an indicator of ecosystem change, basically. And then John's a fisheries biologist, okay? But we would work closely with the Marine Institute, and you'd have a lot of different marine scientists who would work on, say, the benthos. You might have seabed mappers, geophysicists who use sound to map the oceans, and we'd be looking at some of those other disciplines as well when we're on the survey. What we try to do is give a multidisciplinary approach to marine science, okay? So that means we don't just look at fisheries in isolation. We would look at, say, you know, bycatch, what comes up with the fish? What are the fish feeding on? You know, what sort of temperatures are the fish living in? What, you know, what area are they spawning in? So we'd use different disciplines to look at organisms. That's why, and the marine environments, that's why we like to have this multidisciplinary approach, okay, an ecosystem approach to studying the marine environment.
So the car comes into Galway and the water spills out west, if you like, along the north shore. So we'll go up to the wheelhouse now and we'll have a, I'll talk to this captain up in the wheelhouse and we'll figure out which beam trawl tow we're going to do. There's one at Spittle and there's also one at Blackhead, so it's a question of time. But so basically following a transact from here going out to Spittle, and the transact will follow what we call the plume of the car up.
What we'll do is we'll head over towards Blackhead, you know where the lighthouse is there in Clare, and we'll shoot the beam trawl. Before we get there, we'll do 2 CTG stations, okay? And then we'll shoot the beam trawl there. We'll be sorting the beam trawl as we head back in towards Rossaveel, okay? So that's the plan. Around the Aran Islands, these areas that are marked are special areas of conservation, okay? So you can't sample within those areas.
I'm going to do a grab. So a grab is a big clunky piece of equipment, hits the seabed, snaps shut, and it takes a sample of the seabed, and we can have a look at that. So if you guys, have you got Wellingtons? Do you want to put them on? And I see people kind of doing a bit of shivering, so if you've got another layer, put that on you as well. We call this a Shipex grab. So you can see here it's got 2 jaws, and at the moment they're sprung open. So they're under severe tension, and that's just a stand to put it in. Now, what these springs are telling you is that when it's open, don't put your fingers in there unless you think you have too many. You can see how heavy duty everything is out here. Like, everything here is very heavily engineered because it gets a lot of banging and a lot of knocking around. So yeah. So what's keeping it open now is just its suspended weight. When it hits the seabed, that circular weight in the top will hit the plate and snap. So if you look at the cable now, you'll see the cable. It'll go a bit slack in a couple of minutes. So we're on the bottom. The trigger weight hit the springs, snaps shut, and hopefully we have a sample. So one of the things we use this for as well is that, in addition to looking at the sediments and seeing what kind of infauna is in them. Infauna is the name for the benthos, for the animals that live in the sediment. Something else that we do as well is that we use this to ground truth acoustic data. So if we're sending pulses of sound down to the seabed, that pulse of sound is going to tell us something about the nature of the seabed. So in order to ensure that our echo sounder is calibrated correctly, what we do is we actually take a sample of that seabed, and that tells us that we're doing our sums right. Now, if you can, I suppose, just have a kind of put your finger into that just for a second and you get an idea of it. Just one of the things we do is we fill out a data sheet here. And what you can see in that data sheet there is called a sediment sample data sheet. And we want to describe the sediments here under 3 under 3 headings. So grain size. So for the grain size here, you can see it's pretty sticky, it's colloidal. So it's pretty fine grain. We'd put in something for colour, and we take a picture of it as well. And sorting. So sorting is that, like, is it well sorted? Is it all uniform, or is it different sizes? All that kind of thing. So it's pretty uniform. So what we can do now is we can tip it out, and we can wash it, and we can have a look at the animals in it. And if that's what we're doing then is a benthic survey. And benthic is the bottom, and the benthos are the animals that live in the bottom, or on the bottom. We've got different types of sieves here. So that's the bottom one there is very fine. It's 0.05. And this one here, I think, is a 0.5 millimeter sieve. So you sort according to the, I suppose, the amount of discrimination you want to achieve. So, if you opt to go for 0.5, it'll take you a long time to sieve samples. You mightn't be interested in animals that small, so it'll depend very much on the sampling plan, the survey plan that you've made before you went out to see the type of animals you're looking for, what kind of sieving you're going to do. So we'll just use this for the moment, and what we'll do is we'll tip it in. So you can see that's really sticky stuff, it doesn't want to go anywhere. Just gently kind of wash out this. Okay, do you want to take that and put it on the tray behind you? This guy here is Turritella, so he's this shape here because he's able to literally screw himself into that kind of fine sediment. Now, he's actually, what he's got inside him, he was sticking out there a bit, but when he got dropped, he decided to hightail it back into the shell. So there's a little hermit crab in there. So commonly what you find is these guys are colonized by hermit crabs. And what hermit crabs do is as they grow, when he gets too big for this, he'll move out of it and he'll go looking for a bigger shell. Got starfish here as well. And you've got a little clam here. So if you go into Galway Bay Seafoods and you're looking for clams, it's probably this one they're going to give you. I think that's Tepes, might be Tepes semidecussatus. I'm a fisheries biologist, I wouldn't be that au fait with the benthos. And so you've got some broken shells as well, horse mussels. You could get slightly warmer water on the top because you've got a discharge coming from the corrib. So we're looking at this all the time in Galway Bay. And another thing what you find in Galway Bay is that on the north side of the bay you've got the River Corrib coming in. That's the big freshwater input. But on the south side of the bay all the fresh water is coming in from subterranean outputs. So because it's coming down from the Burren, from this karst landscape. So you don't actually have any, once you get past Kilcolgan, there's no rivers, there's discharging into the bay as estuaries. It's all coming in as groundwater. And so you get localized effects there where you can get maybe a little plume of cold water because it's coming up from under the seabed and into the warmer seawater. So we look at this all the time, the circulation of water in the bay. So if you want to study the impacts, human impacts on the sea, really what you look at is the benthos, because the fish can move in and out. The salinity, the temperature can change if you've got maybe if you have effluent coming in, that can have an impact on dissolved oxygen in the water. That'll be affected by temperature, it'll be affected by dilution factors like how much river water is coming in. So looking at the animals in the water column itself isn't necessarily a very reliable indicator.
Activity changes according to pressure and temperature. Okay, so you see the instrumentation package at the bottom, and then it's integrated onto this frame called a rosette with a number of different bottles on it, all of which are open and which we can operate from in here. So we'll go back inside. The first thing we do is that we want to communicate with our CTD, okay? Turn on our deck box, okay? That starts communication. And then we go over here. This is our CTD operating panel. Is CV12019, Gmit training, and we'll just change that file name so that it's 02 for the second station, and we'll save that and start, and we're launching, okay? We're starting to get our data. This is pressure or depth, showing 2 meters. That's where the CTD is. We also have temperature, salinity. You can see it better on this scale because this shows us our depth. Our y-axis is our depth from 0 down to around 40 meters. And then do you see the sensors are starting to show real-time data. Red is salinity. So if we look here, okay, so red is temperature. So our temperature ranges from 9 to 18 degrees. Does anyone know what the normal temperature of seawater in Ireland is during the summer, for example? Any guesses? Close, yeah, very close. Yeah, around about 16, probably 13, more 13 in the Irish Sea, where it's colder. You don't have that lovely North Atlantic drift coming up past us. But yeah, around here would be around 16. Very good. And then also salinity, okay? Here we're seeing 30 to 36. And as we said earlier, we're in an estuarine environment because we've got the Corrib coming in. That estuarine plume, that freshwater plume, we can detect on the northern shore, okay? And we're probably in that at the moment. So yeah, salinity is around about 33. So what we want to do now is deploy the instrument, okay? So first of all, we'll just ask the bridge, what depth are we in, okay? What depth are we in there, Stephen?
23.
Great, thanks. We'll just check her to about 20 then. Okay, and we'll start to deploy her, okay? So we want to go, it's very good. Here we have out and in, okay? So you don't get mixed up. It's always useful to have that. So we'll deploy her out. This winch is quite sensitive, so we just do it lightly. And what we'll keep our eye on here is the pressure sensor. You can have a look here as well, but the pressure sensor is nice and accurate. And you can see her starting to move, and so she's at 3.4, 3.7, 4.1, 4.3. So she's moving now through the water column, and this she's pumping water through the sensors. The sensors take a reading at about 20 times per second and average that reading, okay? So what we're seeing there are, we look at it in a minute when we stop deploying her, but you can see that there's a lot of different structures going on there, okay? With temperature, salinity, and then the green is fluorescence, which is a proxy for how much phytoplankton is in the water column or how green the water column is. Okay, so it tells us, I mean, we're not going to get much phytoplankton here. It's October. So we'll just stop her there at around 20 meters, 19.6, okay? So what you can see here is the blue is salinity, okay? So that's what we'd expect. What we said earlier was we would have fresher water on top of more saline water, okay? So it's about 33 parts per thousand, and underneath, so this is the surface mix layer and what's known as the thermocline. That's where it changes, the temperature or salinity changes rapidly, okay? And you can see then it's sitting on a layer of much saltier water. In terms of temperature, what we normally see is the same as the salinity but inverted. But in this case, we're getting cold, fresh water coming in, okay? So that cold water you can see on top as well. Okay, so it's just slightly colder on top than on the bottom, and that's again due to the Corrib influence coming in. And then green, there's a lot of variation in that, so in the fluorescence. So you can just see, I mean, there wouldn't be much in the water column now in terms of phytoplankton. So what we want to do is take a sample. So who'd like to fire a bottle then? Any volunteers? Come on. It's Killian. Yeah. Killian, okay. So what you need to do is just, you see where it says fire bottle? Yeah. Click that. There, very good. Okay. So we've taken a sample. Hey. What's happened is the bottle has, you've sent a messenger to that to say close the bottle, and that's been triggered, okay? So what we'll do now is we'd want to take a few different samples, okay, to look at different areas, particularly where there's high fluorescence, okay, high phytoplankton, and also at the area where the temperature and salinity changes, because that shows two different water masses. So we'll bring the CTD in, okay? So would anyone else like to fire a bottle? Stephen doesn't count, okay. Maeve? Okay, so just click on, yeah, fire bottle. Okay, so that's triggered another bottle, and now we're going to bring it in, okay? Well done, Maeve. Okay, so it's at 8.9, so we don't want to take it totally out of the water. The guys, the crew will do that for us. You can take it in there, Finbar, thanks. That they can take it in. So that's it. She'll come out of the water now.
What exactly are the bottles?
What are the bottles? Do you know, we'll go out and have a look at it now, okay? So this is the CTD, this is the instrument we were deploying earlier on, okay? This is the instrumentation, this is the business end of it here. So you can see it's got some instruments on there. This is the fluorometer. It sends out a little blue LED light and that makes phytoplankton fluoresce, and that's what gives us our proxy fluorescence for phytoplankton. It's got a transmissometer on there, okay? What that does, it's got a 8 centimeter path length. It shines a light and it detects it. So if the water is turbid, i.e. if there's lots of sediment particles in there, the light you receive might be only 70% of the light that's transmitted. It's on a percentage scale. If you deploy that in the Caribbean, for example, where there's very little kind of sediment particles and lots of lovely clear water, you might get 99% of light transmitted there, okay? So that's a measure of how turbid or how much sediment there is in the water column. We also have temperature sensors on there and conductivity sensors. Conductivity is a proxy for salinity, okay? So, and then this frame that's attached to our instrument is called a CTD rosette, okay? CTD stands for conductivity, temperature and depth, yeah? And this is the rosette. So remember we fired 3 bottles. Sophie, what depths did we fire them at? Number 1 was 14 meters, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's number 1.
Yeah.
The second one was 9 meters and the third one was just before we took the instrument on board, was 3 meters, okay? So what we would do in a survey situation, if we deployed this down to maybe 150 meters in a coastal scenario, we would take samples, we would trigger bottles basically at maybe, you know, at depth, one at around 120 meters, and then going up, one at maybe 50 meters. We would look for the layer where the phytoplankton live, possibly around 25 meters in the thermocline, and then another one in the surface to mix layers, okay? So we'd maybe trigger and close about 6 bottles here. And then when it comes back on deck, the person who operates the CTD on board comes down and says, okay, we fired these bottles at these depths, and then we'd start to process them, okay? So we'd come out here with our jugs, we'd release it by opening this valve here to let oxygen into the system and then pulling out here, okay? And that would be our sample. We'd collect however much we needed from that for processing, okay? If you've got a lot of water to process, which I would have in my research, I would just open the bottom. This cable here is what brings our data up and why we could see it up top, okay?
You can almost hear what they have because you can hear the shell in the net, but there should be a bit of fish in it. I can see a flatfish there at the bottom, so we've got maybe a couple of baskets of material to work with, and that's all we want. It's very destructive, so you don't want too much contact with the bottom here because you're just getting stuff needlessly. We only need a small sample. So we've got some spider crab there. Can you see those? I see a nice place in there, a couple of scallops.
Oh, this is going to be interesting.
Yeah. Have a look out here for a second. What you see out there, if we were on a commercial fishing operation, are discards. All of those would go back, definitely go back. And this fish, these guys, this is a plaice, this is a dab. This guy here is a dragonet, and again, he would definitely go back. There's no commercial value to these. So when you go fishing commercially, what you're doing is you're catching a big bag of material, and a lot of the time you're sorting out most of that and actually putting it back into the water. You've completely traumatized them, or you've damaged them by aggregating them in a big pile of material in a bag. Have a market for them. They eat them in Germany and Holland. They're quite important there. Yeah. If you go onto the Marine Institute site, on their search bar, put in discarding, and it'll throw up this as a PDF, and it's essentially a map of discarding, or it's an atlas of discarding and where it occurs all around Ireland. Yeah. And the different species that are discarded and so on, and the rates and all of that. It's quite a bit of meat on it, but again, we don't bring them in. I suppose they're considered too small, so we just throw them in there. You might have a chance. Okay, so have a go. How are we doing there sorting these guys? So what you need now is you need a tray for the dragonets as well. Yeah. So maybe what we can try and do here is we just sort them out into species, and we'll take a tally then of each species, just to see which is the most abundant species. I'll leave them for the moment. It's
They're all just scattered.
Okay, everyone, this is our skipper, Colin McVerty. It's Colin that's been taking us around Galway Bay this morning.
Y'all enjoy your day, yeah?
Great, that's great.
My job on board is to look after everybody on board and look after the ship, make sure we're not going to go aground or go bump into anything or sink, or make sure no one gets hurt. You can see on here, this is, I don't know, Paula is showing you this down below, chart, no?
No, just electronic version.
These are the charts that we use for navigation. This is one for Galway Harbour. So there's Galway Harbour. We would have come out down the channel in the fog this morning, and then the little boat came along around here, pilot got off, and then we headed this way. We went all the way down to, on this electronic one, like there's where we did the first CTD and grab, there's the second one. So the little red line is where we towed the net along. Now we're on our way to Rossaville. We should be in by shortly after 2ish. We can do everything on this electronically. We can record where we've been, where we're going. We can put it, this red line we can plot for going to Cork like we are on Tuesday. We just click the mouse along the coast and the ship will follow the line all the way around to Cork. This morning when we were coming out in the fog, waste of time looking out the window because you can't see nothing, so you're relying 100% on this, on these to let you see what's around. And you can see all around Ireland, actually all around the world, all the ships, wherever they are, and all this here transmits, and these websites pick it up and put it on. Same as for airplanes, if any of you have used the airplane tracker one. This is the wheel. This is a wheel. It works, it's just our emergency steering, we don't use it. Our steering wheel is this. That's our steering wheel, over and back. So it's very, you use it with your thumb. It's connected to this is the autopilot. So you can see I'm not even watching where we're going because I know the autopilot is going to take us in the right direction. CCTV, I was watching y'all earlier on the deck. Can't hide nothing. Temperatures, pressures, all that kind of stuff. That's it really. That's a satellite phone. So if we're out of mobile range, which we are, say 30% of the time. This is our compass. So this tells us what direction we're pointing. At the minute, 270 is west.
My name is Cormac. I'm from Knockmore. Thought it was interesting to see all the different pieces of equipment and what goes on these vessels, and it's really an eye-opening experience.
My name is Cian Ruan, and I'm from Castlebar. I thought it was really interesting, all the different types of fish. There was 11, I think, and in just 20 minutes we caught.
My name's Killian. and I'm from Castlebar. I liked it. It was cool.
My name's Jaya. I'm from Foxford, and I thought it was really interesting how everybody has their own little jobs on the ship to keep it running, and the engines are cool and they have a lot of power, and it was fun to see all the different parts of the ship and the equipment and all that.
My name's Mark, and it was interesting to see all the different methods of fishing and fish and.
My name's Ross. I'm from Mycullen. I thought it was, it was pretty cool, like with all the fish and stuff.
I'm Ellen. I'm from Crotwell, and I thought it was really interesting seeing like what goes on in the ship and the oceanography.
I'm Emer, and I thought the trip was very educational and interesting.
My name is Sophie. I'm from Castlebar, and I liked seeing the crabs and the captain's room, like the big wheel and everything.
My name's Maeve. I'm from Trim. I like seeing how the ships actually work and like what they're used for and that. Like.
Oh no, they're a great bunch. They're a really great bunch, guys. We just want to say thanks for coming on board. You were a really good bunch, and I think we probably got more out of you than you did out of us. Now, I hope you all enjoyed it today and found it quite educational, and now you know what an oceanographer, fisheries biologist, benthic ecologist and geophysicists do when they're at sea. Would it inspire any of you to make a career in marine science, do you think?
All of us.
All of us.
All of us.
We all work on the same ship. All for oceanography.
Yeah, we had a great day out. We were very lucky with the weather. Everybody was very enthusiastic, and I think everybody got a lot out of it. I certainly enjoyed it. More of the same crowd, please.